It's been a rough 24 hours for USC recruiting. The Trojans lost 2 5-star commitments this week, but the big question still lingers. Is Julian Lewis next? That's what we're going to find out in this video. We got Scott Schrader from USC, and we're going to break it all down. It has been a tough week to follow USC recruiting, but we want to know if Julian Lewis is next. So we're going to get into it, but first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're all over the latest developments, so go ahead and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Scott Schrader from USC. Scott, before we get to Juju Lewis, why did we see 2 5-star decommitments in the past 24 hours?
Well, I would love to know what went behind it all. It just seems like there must have been some coordination going on somewhere. But, I think the reality was it defied the odds that Isaiah Gibson and Justice Terry committed to USC to begin with. There's just, sure, they had a really exciting unofficial visit. Aaron Donald was there. There was a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. Coach Henne is an amazing personality, and he has a pretty impressive resume. But we're talking about, a couple of guys that are from Georgia, and Georgia is thought of as the premier football program in the country right now and has been for a few years. So I think the reality is that, it's hard to really establish and maintain a strong connection with guys, after one visit. And I think ultimately it came down to, I think both those guys want to go to Georgia, and that's where they're going to end up. I think most people at On3 think the same thing. I went and visited Justice Terry a couple of weeks before he took his Georgia official visit, and he seemed pretty enthusiastic about USC. Was looking forward to taking his visit, and I went and visited him, a few days after his official visit to Georgia, and it seemed completely different. So, Georgia did what they had to do on that official visit. They've kept in contact. They've met him, made these guys feel like priorities. And I think ultimately it just comes down to that.
Yeah, big dogs came barking. So the big question is, and this has nothing to do with Georgia, but USC fans want to know, is Julian Lewis the next big decommitment for USC? What do you think?
Well, obviously when something like this happens in the last 24 hours, because that's about what it's been, you're going to start wondering, is Drake Stubbs next, right? Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of talk about potential decommitments, and Julian has taken one more visit to Colorado. The word that was being passed around yesterday at the Elite 11 finals, day one, was that Auburn's offering pretty insane NIL compensation. So, you can never discount that. That being said, I spent some time with Julian's father yesterday. I know that Julian, his father, and Clyde Alexander and Jakeem Stewart all went to dinner last night after their USC visit. Julian did visit USC while he's been in Los Angeles on this trip. Oh, okay. I didn't get any sense that there's going to be a decommitment, but my goodness, nowadays you just cannot know unless you actually live with somebody, I think, in some cases.
But, hey, Julian Lewis was committed. He was the first commit in this class. And how many months was it before they even landed their second commitment? So he's been through, been with USC for a long time.
Yeah, he has. And, and there was some concern about the fact that he committed August 2nd of last year, and they did not get a second commitment until March 24th. And the guys that decommitted in the last 24 hours were two of the guys that they got commitments from on that trip, and Drake Stubbs was another. So, it's nowadays you can't make any definitive statement that no, he's not going to flip with pretty much anybody.
Yeah. I'm not referring to Juju in the next question I'm going to ask you, but when it comes to Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibson, looking in hindsight, was it a mistake to kind of press for those commitments back in March? Do you think that maybe USC should have let the process play out a little bit more? How do you look at this in hindsight?
I look at it like he brought in a defensive line coach that was coaching it for the Los Angeles Rams the last 6 years. And he came in not looking to just get good players. His goal was to go out and sign the best defensive line class, ever. Now, that's that's obviously a lofty ambition, but, I don't think they made a mistake on it. I think you aim high and see where it goes. I think they just started realizing in the last, really realizing in the last few weeks that it was going to be really difficult to get Isaiah Gibson. He didn't want to schedule the USC official visit. USC kind of wanted that to happen to kind of show his serious interest. Yeah, so that was going on, and with Justice, I actually thought he would take his official visit, just to see what happened. But my takeaway after the last time I visited Justice Terry was USC was just in it versus being a committed player.
Right. All right. So moving forward, we have another big visit weekend on tap. Double-digit visitors this weekend on campus at USC. So I want to ask you, who could commit this weekend and kind of get USC's fans' minds off of all the bad news that's happened this week?
Well, there are some guys that I think could commit. I wouldn't put any of the guys in the category where I expect a commitment. And I think that happens on every visit weekend anyway.
Yeah, of course.
But guys like Marco Jones and Edge from Northern California. Phillip Bell, I'm not sure if he's actually going to be taking this official visit or not, but he would have been one. I'm not quite sure where they stand with him right now. But you got Trajan Odom, who was really, really high on USC after his first visit. He's from Los Angeles. I think right now most are seeing Oregon and Ohio State being the top schools for him, but he does have his official visit this weekend. So those are a couple of guys. After that, it's a bunch of commits and a bunch of maybe a few long shots.
All right.
Jared Smith is coming in. I know they felt like they had a shot with him, so he's another guy maybe we could keep an eye on. But again, you've got a guy that's only visited one time from the heart of SEC country.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I think that USC fans will get some good recruiting news coming out of this weekend. I mean, anytime you have that many guys on campus, there's going to be some successes coming out of there. So we will see what happens. But USC fans, come on. Let's talk. Comment section below. How are we feeling now about Julian Lewis? I mean, your tone's got to have changed a little bit since the days of typing crazy in the comment section about how wrong we were on all these guys. But now that it's happened, now that the dust is kind of settled, let us know, talk to us. How do we feel about Julian Lewis?